Hello everyone, hope you are having a nice day. In the subject system software, we have discussed many things, and in today's class we are going to implement those by means of some programs. So till now we have discussed about what is system software and what is the need for system software. System software is actually a software that helps the application program. Suppose if you want to run an application program, it cannot run on its own. So you need the help of system software for language translation, loading a program into memory, and all those things. So when you have a system software, it will make the work of the user little bit easier. So we have learned system software and what is system software, and we have discussed earlier that you cannot have a system software, or you cannot understand a system software by means of a real-time machine. So to avoid that, what we have done, we have created two hypothetical machines, and one was simplified instructional computer and second one was simplified instructional computer extra equipment, and we have discussed about the structure of those two machines till now, and we have also seen the addressing formats and instruction sets and addressing formats. Today we are going to discuss how an assembly level program runs in SIC as well as SIC-XC. So coming to this video lecture, we are going to see how a program is going to run in our imaginary computer. So the lecture goes like this. So the objective of this class is we will understand the representation of assembly directives, and so you will understand what are the assembler directives used here in our program. Then the functions, or how does an assembler directive works, and you will see the implementation of assembler directives and the operations of SIC and SIC-XC. So first we will see what is an assembler directive. You might have discussed about opcode. What is an opcode? Opcode is nothing but operation code. We have discussed that. Example LDA, that means load into accumulator. That is an operation code. So we have discussed that. Now we are going to discuss what is an assembler directive. See, there are certain instructions in assembler that will do only its specified task. You cannot make the directive, this assembler directive, to perform an extra task. It will do only that particular task, and we will see one by one. First one is start. So for example, this start, if there is a word called a start, you can understand that it is the starting of the program. So starting of a program. So I will put in this way. The format will be like this: copy start 1000. So when I see the word start, I can understand that this is an assembler directive, and it says that this is the start of my program. And what is this copy? Copy is nothing but name of the program. So should I always give the name as copy? No, you can give your own name. If it is hello start, means the name of my program is hello. If I give another name, student start, that means the name of the program is student. Then what is this 1000? So 1000 is nothing but your starting address. We are assuming that, so 1000 is nothing but starting address. So we are assuming that our program starts at location 1000. If so, there are certain issues in this. We will discuss in your future lectures. For time being, you can understand only three things. First one is start, that means start of the program. Copy means the name of the program, and 1000 specifies the address. So that is the first assembler directive. The first assembler directive was start, and start specifies start of the program. So we will go to the next assembler directive. The next assembler directive is end. So end specifies as start specified start of the program, end will always specifies the end of the program. Then next, what does end contains? End doesn't contain anything. You can specify end as it is, or you can, if it is optional, you can also give the starting address of the program. Suppose end 1000 means it specifies the starting address of the program. This is purely optional, and end will work on its own. End will work on its own. So we have discussed two assembler directives till now. First one is start of the program, and second one is end of the program. Now we are going for the third one. It is word. So we have discussed 3 consecutive bytes form a word. So 3 consecutive bytes form a word. Next, you have reserved word. We will compare these two, then it will be easier for understanding purpose. Another one is reserved word. Now listen how this works. Word and reserved word. For example, if it is reserved word, I am going to reserve 3 consecutive bytes and nothing is stored inside. So it's just a memory reserve. A word is reserved for storage in the future. But word, I'm allocating memory and I'm going to store something inside this word. So word will contain some data inside this. When you are declaring it as a word, it is a memory location and something will be stored inside it. And reserved word is you are just reserving for future use. For example, in C programming, for example, if I declare integer a equal to 5, that means I have declared a variable of type integer and I am going to store 5 into it. Suppose I am declaring integer a. In future, it can have, a can have 7 value, or a can have 10 as the value, a can have 20 as the value, a can have 100 as the value. So it is reserved in common. So it is general declaration and it is specifically declared. Clear? I am giving a value. So word will reserve a memory and also it will store something inside it. So for in word and reserved word, you have 3 consecutive bytes. But one in word data will be stored, but in reserved word data will not be stored. So I think you can understand the difference between word and reserved word now. So next one is byte, and you have 2 more things, byte and reserved byte. So similar to word, in byte you have only one, that is 8 bits data are stored. Reserved byte also again you have 8 bits. Similar to word, byte will have some data in it, and reserved byte, only a byte is reserved, memory is reserved. So here, since memory is reserved, we are not going to do anything else. A memory is reserved. In future, any data can be stored. So we have seen 6 assembler directives: start, end, word, reserved word, byte and reserved byte. Start specifies start of the program. It contains name of the program as well as the location at which the program is going to start. Then next, end specifies the end of the program. Then word, in word what you have, that is 3 consecutive bytes form a word. Then byte, only 1 byte is reserved, and reserved word you have 3 consecutive bytes, but it is only a memory is reserved for that. In reserved byte also only a byte of memory is reserved. So now we are going into the programs. So consider this program. See the things that are marked in red, and this is your instructions, and this is your data part, I mean declaration part. So if you can relate your previous things which I have discussed, that means if you can relate what are the things I have discussed with your assembler directive, then you can easily understand this. First one is, listen, before going to the program, we will see the declaration part. First line is alpha reserve word 1. That means, consider what is reserve word? 3 consecutive bytes, right? Name of the reserve word is alpha. Yes, name of this is alpha. Next, what we have done is 5 word 5. See, the name is 5, and here inside that I am going to store 5, that is 0, 0, 5. That means 5 will be represented in 8 bits. Just understand this. First, alpha reserve word 1, I have reserved a word place, that's the name is alpha. Next, 5, it contains the value 5. So, the name can be anything, you can give your name, but word 5 means it is going to store 5. Here alpha reserve word 1 means it is going to reserve only one word for you. Alpha reserve word 1, one word. Clear? Next, we will see the first 2 lines of the program. The first line says that LDA 5, that means load into accumulator 5. Now, what does 5 contains? 0, 0, 5. That means it contains a value called as 5. Now it is loaded into accumulator. Now the contents of 5 is loaded into accumulator. Now accumulator contains the value 5. Now store into alpha. That means the content from accumulator is stored into alpha. Now what does alpha contain? 0, 0, 5. Clear? The first 2 lines. The first line was load into accumulator 5. From 5, that is a memory location, it contains the value called as 5, 0, 0, 5. Then next line says that store into alpha. That is, you are going to store the value into alpha. Clear? Next one is, we will see the last 2 lines. It is similar to that. Character, char reset, byte. See, byte means only one memory location. And you might have discussed how does SIC stores your alphabets. Alphabets are stored in the form of 8-bit ASCII code. 8-bit ASCII code. Here reset. So the value for reset is 90. So 90 will be stored in 8 bits. How it will be stored? So we have discussed 9 will be done in 8421 method. 8 plus 1, 9. So it will be 1, 0, 0, 1. That is 8 plus 1, 9. And 0 will be stored as 0, 0, 0, 0. So this is how, yeah. So in char reset, this value will be there. Char reset. Clear? In char reset, we will have this value. Then next one is again you are reserving a byte. That the name of the byte is C1, and it does only one byte is reserved. So it is specified here. Now we will go into the program. Load ch char reset. So your character is loaded, and so when you are loading an arithmetic value, when you are loading a number, it will be loaded in this form, LDA. When you are loading a character, it will be loaded in LDCH method. So LDCH char reset means this value will be loaded into accumulator. LDCH means here accumulator loads a character. Then STCH C1 means now accumulator contains this 90 value, that means Z is there. And when you are having STCH, so STCH means it stores the C1, stores the value from the accumulator into C1. Now C1 will contain 1001 0000, which means it contains the value Z. So this is how a data movement operation takes place in SIC. So we have seen you have to declare 2 things. First one was a word, then it was reserve word, then byte, reserve byte. By means of using accumulator, we are transferring the values, and when you are transferring the value for a character, what we are using LDCH, which is also an accumulator for moving the character. So next we are going to see about the same program, how this program is implemented in SIC-XC. Now, there we had 4 declaration actually. Now here we have only 2 declaration. The first declaration was alpha. And what is alpha? It's a reserve word. So what is reserve word? 3 bytes. And one specifies only one word is reserved. Second one is C1. What is C1? You can see what is C1. C1 contains only 1 byte. So since it is a byte, we are using only 1. Now we will go into the program LDA hash 5. So I have already discussed what is meant by hash. It's an immediate operand. So we are going to load 5 into accumulator directly. So in SIC, what you have to do, you have to store it in the memory, then you have to load. Here you can directly load the value. So the value 5 is directly loaded into accumulator. Now accumulator contains a value 5. Clear? Accumulator contains a value 5. Yes. Now store into alpha means alpha is already memory. The content from accumulator is stored into alpha. That means 0, 0, 5. 5 is stored here. Clear? Next, LDA 90. Now listen here. The value from accumulator. So you can see here, the value from accumulator is stored. The value is 90. It will be stored like this. 0, 0, 90. Now what happens is, see, when you are storing this 90 and when you are storing this 5, both look similar, but you have to see the next one. See, the 90 will be converted into character. At that time, the value of Z will be stored. Here, again you are using an arithmetic one. When you are using arithmetic one, the number is directly stored. But when you are not using an accumulator, or when you are not using the arithmetic accumulator, it will be stored as a character. It will check, because 90 is the ASCII code. ASCII code for Z. So you have seen 2 programs. First program, you had to store the content into memory. After storing the content into memory, only what we can do, we can transfer the data. But here, without storing the memory, you can, by means of using an immediate operand, that is hash. When you are using an immediate operand, you can directly change the values. So next, we are going for an arithmetic operation. So arithmetic operation means it can be an addition, subtraction, and all those things. So first, consider you have a word. The name of the word is 1. So 1, and it contains the value 1, 0, 0, 1. So 0 will be represented in 8 bits actually. So 8 times 0 will come. Here also 8 times you will get 0. But 1 will be represented as 0 and 1. So 1 is represented as 0, 1. So 0 will be represented 4 times. 1 will be represented as 0, 0, 0, 1. Now, next one is we have something called as alpha. It's a reserve word, and beta, again it's a reserve word. Gamma, delta, and INCR. All these are reserve words. So it is not going to store anything. As I said earlier, it is not going to store anything. Only thing what it is going to do, it is reserving a memory. So you have reserved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words in different names. Clear? So first we will go into the program. The program starts like this. LDA alpha, that is, alpha is loaded into accumulator. Now accumulator contains something called as alpha. Next line, add INCR. That means you have to add INCR with alpha, with accumulator content, that is INCR. Next, subtract 1. You are subtracting 1. Now store into beta. Now the accumulator content is stored into beta. Now it is beta is equal to alpha plus INCR minus 1. Clear? The 4 lines. First one is load into accumulator alpha, LDA alpha. So accumulator contain alpha, it's a temporary storage. In that temporary storage, I am adding INCR. INCR was added, then subtract with 1, then it is stored into beta. Next, the next 4 lines we'll see. See here, LDA gamma. So what will you do? Into accumulator I am storing gamma. Next, then add INCR. INCR is added, then subtract 1. Store into delta. So delta is equal to same thing, gamma plus INCR minus 1. This is how an arithmetic operation takes place. When you are performing arithmetic operation, what you have to do? First you have to put the initial value inside the accumulator. Then you can perform your temporary operations. When all the operations are over, or when your work is over, you have to transfer the content from accumulator into the permanent storage where you want to store it. That is how an arithmetic operation takes place. Next, by means of SIC XC, how the same arithmetic operation takes place. Listen here, what we are doing here is, again, we have declared 5, so reserved 5 values. So as you know, it will reserve 3 bytes, 3 consecutive bytes, and we are not going to give values. The values are directly given during the running time of the program. So first, now listen here. In SIC XC, you have seen 2 registers. First one is BSTF, 4 registers you have seen BSTF. S and T are what registers? General purpose register. So now listen, first line is LDS INCR. So S register will contain INCR. S register, the value of INCR is stored in S register. Next, accumulator will contain, that is LD alpha means accumulator will contain alpha. Next line, add R. Add R means adding 2 registers. What do you have to add? S comma A, that is INCR plus alpha. You have added both these things. What is the next line? Subtract 1, direct operand, subtract minus 1. See, whenever you are performing this addition subtraction, this content will be inside something called as accumulator always. For whenever you are performing arithmetic operation, it will always contain, all the values will be placed in accumulate. Clear? Then now STA beta, that is store all this content in something called as beta. Beta will contain, now beta is equal to INCR plus alpha minus 1. This is how this operation takes place. We will see the last 4 lines again. See, last 4 lines works like this. First one is LDA gamma. So accumulator contains now something called as gamma. And initially we had INCR in S. Now add. So when you are performing add or, add means accumulator will come into picture. S comma A, S is INCR and A is nothing but gamma now, gamma. Next, subtract minus 1, subtract directly the value is given 1 and this content is stored into delta, that is accumulator content is stored into delta. Now, delta is equal to INCR plus gamma minus 1. This is how an arithmetic operation takes place. There, you don't use immediate operands, but here you are using immediate operands. So when you want to put when you want to bring value 1, what you have to do? You have to store that value in a word and then you have to bring it. But here you can directly use the value. That's the only difference here. You can perform register to register addition also here. Clear? So next one is we are going to see this program. How does SIC supports looping? So what is a loop? So you might have seen in C language, you might have seen loop. So loop means you have some statements that has to be repeated again and again. Simple example for a looping statement is your multiplication table. When you are what do you do while you are multiplying? What do you do? 1 into 2 is 2, 2 into 2 is 4, 3 2s are 6, 4 2s are 8, 5 2s are 10. That means one value is incremented, another value remains constant, but you are going to get the answer. What we are doing? We are repeating the same work again and again. We are repeating the same work again and again. And if I have to do this for 100 times, I have to write this line 100 times. So to prevent that, what we are doing, we are going for something called as loop. That means a line will be written once, but it will be called many times. You are making this to run many times, and that is called as loop. And here in SIC, the loop goes like this. First, we will see this. Consider first one is you have declared something, a byte, and the byte contain a string called as test string. So TEST, then space STRING. So it contains 11 characters. How it is 11? So when I include space also, it becomes 11 characters. Clear? Then string 2. So first string contains something called as test string. String 2. So string 1 contains something called as test string. String 2 contains. So I am reserving. See reserve byte. And this byte contains 11 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Here we have reserved a byte. The name is string 1, and string 1 contains 11 spaces. First space contains T, E, S, T, then space, then string. So you had 11 places, and here you have reserved another string with 11. Then next you have a word, and the name of the word is 0, and it contains the value 0. Next you have a word called as 11, and again here also you have the value 11. Clear? Now how does the program starts? Now coming to the program, first one is LDX 0. That means X register or index register, you are giving the value as 0. So index now X is equal to what? 0. That is considered like this for I is equal to 0. Similarly, I am initializing X is equal to 0. Next what happens is, now listen, LDCH string 1, we can see this move CH later. Just look at these two lines. LDCH is string 1 comma X. So what is X value now? The value of X is 0. So string 1, that is string 1 comma X, that is 0th position, which is the first one. You have to load the character T. So T is loaded. Now stored, next line is STCH string 2 comma X. That means you have to store the character in the 0th position into string 2. That means now T is stored here. First character is taken from there, from 0th position. I am placing it here. So next line, TAX11. What happens in TAX11 is, so it compares X value with 11. So initially it was 0. When TAX compares this, it will increment the value, then compare the value. So first, initially the value was 0. So listen what happens here is TAX. So in consider there is something called as TAX. So TAX, first one is it increments the value. So initially x is 0, now when it is increment it becomes 1. The next line, it is compared with 11. 1 is compared with 11. When you compare 1 and 11, it is less than. When it is less than, you have to move to CH. Clear? Now the value of x is 1. LDCH string 1 comma 1. String 1 comma 1 means this is first value. Next time what will you do? You will store the value in the next one. TAX again. What happens here now? It is incremented. 1 becomes 2. 2 is compared with 11. When 2 is compared with 11, again it is less than. Similarly, you will come till 11 less than 11. 11 will be compared with 11. So it will be equal to, when it is equal to, will come out of the program. Till that 10 will also be less. So you will move to CH till all the values are transferred from first string to second string. Clear? Next, the same program by means of SICXE. So what happens here is, again you have a word, you have a byte, that byte will contain test space string, and again you have reserved a byte, that is 11 places are reserved. Now when the program starts, you have a T register, that is general purpose register. It contains a value 11, and in X register you are putting the value 0. Clear? Now first LDCH string 1 comma x. X value is 0. So first value is loaded into accumulator, then store into, you are storing the T value here. Next line, TA XR T. That means, so T contains 11. So T contains 11. What I will do? I will increment 0 once. So now it becomes 1. 1 is compared with 11. Same operation. There we are using TAX. Here we are using TAXR, register comparison. Clear? Then when it is less than, again I have to move. Then the second value E will come. Again 2 will be compared with 11. Similarly, all the values are over. My test string will be transferred from string 1 to string 2. This is how this operation takes place. Next, last one, we are going to see about input-output operation. So what is input-output operation? See, we have discussed like this. So when you are performing input-output operation, first you have to test the device. If the device is free, I will go for reading operation. If the device is not free, what I will wait. So here you can see, here you have two devices. First one is input device. The name of the input device is F1. See, input device byte X F1. That means you are declaring the name as F1 and out device name is 05. You have two device. Input device name is F1 and output device name is 05. Then here you have reserved a byte and the name of the byte is data. Clear? Now first listen. So this is test device, input device. You are testing the device. So the name of the input device is F1. You are testing it, and what happens here is you will check whether the device is free or not. If the device is free, you will go to this line, read the device. If the device is not free, I will wait. So the loop will be again continued. That is, again I will go to in loop. Again I will test the device. Again, if the device is not free, again I will go to the loop. I will test the device again and again and again. So I am reading the data. I am storing the data. Next, output device. I am testing the output device, and I am checking whether the device is free or not. If the device is not free, again I will go to output device. This loop will be continued again and again. If it is free, I will load the data and I will write in the output device. Clear? So, in today's class, we have discussed about assembler directives. Then we have discussed about symbol data movement operation for SIC and SIC-XC. Then we have discussed arithmetic operations. Then we have discussed about looping statements. So finally, we have discussed about how an input-output operation takes place in an SIC device. Hope you understood this programming concepts of SIC. Thanks for watching. Thank you.